So today we saw Tesla close about 1.2% higher than the close of yesterday's trading session, which makes sense considering the fact that tomorrow is going to be the day where we get Tesla's earnings and we get an update on the fundamentals, and that's when the big move is coming, as Wall Street believes that Tesla's revenues will be 50% higher than this quarter from last year. But on top of touching on Tesla's earnings, I also want to cover some economic data that we saw come out today. For example, we saw the retail sales and industrial production numbers come out, and it's pertinent to really parse through this economic data to really understand where the economy currently is and where the future markets may go. But I also want to highlight this trade idea I called out at 2:34 a.m. saying that I am looking into 360 calls on Microsoft after we are below $345.40 for the entry. And after that call out, I updated it at 10:40 a.m. in this morning's early trading session saying that, hey, Microsoft call out from the daily briefing is curling up, signaling that this was a good entry. And pretty much right after that, we saw Microsoft blow up. And so if you would have taken the trade idea from this morning's daily briefing, you would have had a trade that was up almost 2,000% in just one day. Now, of course, if you didn't trade the options and you only traded the underlying shares of Microsoft, you would still be up 7% as well. And so with that said, if you guys are interested in getting access to my daily briefings where every single day I talk about what's going on with the overall market as well as calling out some trade ideas, make sure to check out the first link in the description below, especially because we have a coupon sale for 30% off to join the Push and Profit program. So make sure to check that out. But with that said, let's go ahead and talk about this economic data. Now, headline retail sales rose just 0.2% in June, which was short of the 0.5% that was expected. Now, in my book, this is honestly pretty good, as retail is pretty much in a tricky situation where if we would have saw retail actually beat expectations, well, that's good for the overall economy and that would help the overall GDP grow. We don't want to see too many Americans purchasing too much in the retail sector, as that would signify the Federal Reserve that, hey, inflation is still an ongoing battle. However, if retail sales came in really bad, then that would signal that, hey, the economy is really looking bad over here. But I also want to go ahead and talk about the industrial production numbers. Now, this report was pretty much a punch in the gut because the Federal Reserve is trying to really just tighten monetary policy to slow down jobs and increase the cost of capital to take the swagger out of consumer spending and really just tame inflation. But at the same time, they don't want to do too much damage in the industrial sector. Now, I know it sounds kind of confusing that in one sense you want to go ahead and tame inflation and, kind of stifle spending, but at the same time you don't want to really slump down industrial, production numbers. And the reasoning behind this is because that would mean that we are having less of an output, and that could lead to a lower GDP number, and that could really put us into a recession. So the Federal Reserve right now, with the numbers that we have going on with all the economic data, kind of puts them in a medium position where kind of things are on the fence. But with that said, I want to go ahead and hop into my laptop and talk a little bit more about Tesla, the overall markets, and also what we have to really pay attention to going forward for the earnings of Tesla. Alrighty, so we are officially in my laptop and we're taking a look at Tesla from a weekly time frame. Now, as mentioned, tomorrow is going to be the earnings call for Tesla after the bell, and this is going to be the big driving factor, the big catalyst that's going to propel a major move in Tesla. Now, why is that? Well, it's very obvious. There's several different data points that influence where the market goes, but one of the primary reasons why investors either pour money in or take money out of the market is based off the fundamentals, right? At the end of the day, that's clearly what people put their money into a stock for. They want to see that there's a return on investment. Now, we had a good delivery number, good delivery numbers come out fairly recently, and that's what caused this 6% jump right around over here. And so what Wall Street is expecting, right, is for Tesla to still slightly beat on their earnings, but one of the main concerns is going to be, margins. How bad are margins going to be diminished? But I want to provide a friendly reminder that, when it comes to earnings calls, there's really two portions to them, right? So you have the actual earnings, which is pretty much a snapshot or snapshot of what the company has done in the last quarter, and that's definitely a big catalyst. But then the second part of the earnings is the forward guidance, and that comes afterwards, right? And so that's pretty much where the CFO or the CEO, right? We may hear Elon talk, we may hear can't think of his name off the top of my head right now. I think it's Zachary Kirkhorn talk as well, the CFO, mentioned their thoughts on Tesla going forward, right? Now, we obviously know that margins are going to be diminished, right? Because why? Well, we had major price cuts during the beginning of the year, right? And obviously Tesla did that so that they could stay competitive and also stir up demand in the period where, right now we're seeing high interest rates, causing it much more pain for individuals to actually go ahead and finance a new vehicle. And so, by Tesla being able to reduce their prices, well, that was a big help to, really help them with the delivery numbers that help, obviously beat expectations. And so, that's going to be a major concern. But what we really want to pay attention to in the forward guidance is one, an update on the Cybertrucks, right? We've heard, or we already seen Elon Musk tweet and congratulate the Tesla team, saying, hey, congratulations on manufacturing the first Cybertruck in this, Gigafactory. I look forward to plenty more, right? Whatever, right? Well, the update that we want to hear is, well, how soon are we expected to see deliveries on Cybertrucks, right? Because that's a main concern. And also, what is the price probably going to be? I don't think we're going to get an update on the price tomorrow, but that's definitely going to be a question. And then another question is, will the Cybertrucks boost profit margins, right? And so if we hear, someone from Tesla mention how, okay, well, because of how the Cybertrucks are made and, because of the castings and how it's actually engineered in a very unique way, we actually slash profit margins or actually boost profit margins by a certain amount. And so anything of that nature coming from Tesla will be seen as very bullish. And so that's why I just want to give us a heads up that, yeah, we want to pay attention to the snapshot of the earnings, what they're doing in energy, etc. But we also want to pay attention to, the forward guidance. Are they worried about demand going forward? Because what do we know? Well, we know that in 2024, right, they already announced on their website that, some of their vehicles are not going to be able to get the full EV tax credit. Why is that? Well, because, the Inflation Reduction Act was made where every single year it's kind of like a moving target in the sense of where the batteries have to be manufactured at. And so that may disqualify Tesla from getting the full EV tax credits, which Tesla's fully aware of. And so that means that in 2024, there may be an issue with prices being unaffordable, right? And of course, that's where we're going to feel more pain in the economy. So we want to pay attention to what Elon or Zachary or whoever from Tesla ends up talking about, what they expect coming forward. But with that said, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of things from a technical perspective. Now, one of the things I mentioned in yesterday's video, and I don't want to repeat all the information from yesterday's video because I don't want to come off, redundant in every single video, just saying the same thing all over again. But I talked about a little bit from technical analysis, how it's not my favorite data point, but it is something you want to pay attention to, especially for Tesla, as it's a big stock amongst retail traders and investors, and so a lot of them use technical analysis. Now, I highlighted that we had this downtrend over here, right? This descending trend line, and we kind of basically kissed it. If we kind of zoom in, we see the little tail, we kissed it and kind of pushed backwards, right? But we're still in this upward trend. Now, tomorrow, what is something we want to pay attention to from the technical aspect? Well, if we do beat earnings and we have a good forward guidance, that could obviously break this trend line, right? Stocks don't have to adhere to these trend lines, right? Just because Tesla's, getting rejected over here, it doesn't mean that, it can never break above it. Yeah, stocks are meant to break above and below trend lines, right? As well as supports and resistances. And so if we have Tesla, again, with good numbers and a good forward guidance, that pushes us above this area and into this area where there's little volume by price. And that's where we could see the big moves for Tesla. That's why I said, hey, it wouldn't be too crazy to see Tesla getting closer to like the mid 300s like we saw back in early of 2022. right? Of course, this is looking at things from a bullish perspective, right? We gotta obviously be data driven, and I don't like to trade earnings just guessing for tomorrow. I don't like to do those YOLO lottery trades at all, right? Of course, I do have Tesla already in my long-term portfolio, and I'll touch on that as well. But I want to cover Tesla first from a short-term perspective, from obviously someone who's trading Tesla. I'm going to be paying attention to Tesla going forward into the next day, because of course, if we have the bull case, well, that's good. But if we have the bear case, well, the next thing is, well, if we get a bad earnings or we have bad forward guidance, I want to see where Tesla starts, falling down to. One of the things I mentioned is that around here is, around 200, the like low 200s is where we have that big area where there's a lot of volume by price, and that's where we see kind of like in the past it's been, supports or consolidated kind of support over here, and then again a resistance over here. And so I want to see, if we have a bad earnings, bad forward guidance, etc., how bad is Tesla going to fall down? How many investors are going to be like, hey, I'm out, and they're going to be selling their positions, which could cause the price to capitulate. And I want to see, hey, when we are around this level, are we going to bounce up and show signs of confirmation to the uptrend? Or are we going to break below? That's going to be something that I'm going to want to pay attention to as far as someone who's going to be trading Tesla. Now, obviously, that's just me talking about Tesla from my short-term trading account. But what about, someone who has Tesla in your long-term portfolio? For example, I have exposure to Tesla not only by owning just individual Tesla shares, but of course I invest in a lot of index funds, right? Which I recommend everyone should do, right? It's one of the easiest ways to invest, and I think a good book that highlights that is a book titled A Random Walk Down Wall Street. It's a classic, but I don't want to touch on book recommendations right now. Anyways, I have exposure to Tesla not only in individual shares, but also in index funds, right? A lot of the index funds that I am invested in, they also have exposure to Tesla. And so one of the things I want to pay attention to is, if we break upwards, well, I probably won't be adding more shares of Tesla just yet. I like to dollar cost average, but not in a sense where I do it equally every single month at a certain day. I like to just, add lump sums, right? Whenever we see big dips and then signs of an uptrend. Again, that's a big debate in the investing world. There's been so many different research papers showing, should you invest just equally every single month, or should you do a lump sum, right? You could, just Google it and do the research for yourself. But with that said, that's just going to be what I'm paying attention to. I do expect Tesla to come out with great numbers as far as revenue. I do expect that, from last year's quarter, as Wall Street expects that they're going to do really well. And I do think that from, Q1, it's going to be slightly good as well. But the main concern, as everyone knows, is going to be profit margins and free cash flow, and also what are they investing in going forward, and also talking about the Cybertruck, right? What do they expect? So, there's a lot of things that we're going to be wanting to pay attention to for Tesla, regardless if you're a trader or an investor. But with that said, I also want to give a reminder that, you should never trade and invest based on anyone else's opinion, including my own. And you should only trade in something or invest in something only if you see value in it. So with that said, I always just like to provide that disclosure, but I want you guys to let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on Tesla going forward? And also, maybe if you're watching this after the earnings report, what are your thoughts just going, into 2024, where I think that's where the big concern is. But with that said, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully there was some utility here. And hopefully you guys watch this next video right over here, where I talk a little bit more about volume profile. I'll see you guys in that next video. Take care, guys.